Welcome to Everything is Waiting for You. It's such a deep topic. I've noticed that I'm quite nervous to be talking about it with you today. It's such a profound thing about existence that is so present, so all-pervasive that we don't even notice it. It's like the fish swimming in water and who doesn't know what water is. I'm going to try and give us an experience of that and talk about it. Human consciousness is designed to experience peace and freedom. That would be my summary. And later on, we'll talk about why we don't experience peace and freedom. But first, I want to talk about how human consciousness is designed to experience peace and freedom. Let's just take a moment to pause. Let's just take a moment to just connect with our feet and our skin and our muscles. I'm not going to do a long meditation, but I just want us to really connect with ourselves. Connect with our feet and our muscles and our breath. And I'm asking BX to turn your camera on, please. And just noticing what you see, any internal dialogue that you have. What your experience is in the moment. Just really paying attention to the moment. What I do is I go through my senses. I pick a focal point. I look at a focal point. And then I notice that, and then I notice everything else around. And then I listen. And I listen to everything I can possibly listen to. Including my internal dialogue. I listen to my internal dialogue from a distance. And then I feel, notice what I'm feeling. And paying attention to skin, to muscle, to any emotion, could track feelings in the core of the body. One of the biggest things in the body is the way that the lungs expand, lifting the rib cage. It's such a big movement that I could almost say there are 4 things to pay attention to in the body. Places on your skin, places in your muscles, emotions, in the trunk of the body, and how your lungs expand and contract. But also, one of the other things, not only do we have seeing, hearing, feeling, I'll come to tasting and smelling in a moment, but the internal dialogue is such a big part of what we hear that it's worth really making sure, really making distinct what it's saying, really listening to it from a distance, from like it was someone talking to you in the room. Because that's when we use the word thoughts, that's the major form of thoughts, is the internal dialogue. And so the purpose right now is just to notice all of this, to notice. I mean, I could just say, notice everything you experience. It's impossible to notice everything you experience. So you've got your conscious attention jumping around. Notice how it pays attention to this, then it pays attention to that. When I suggest you pay attention to a feeling, it will go to a feeling or to a picture or to a sound. Conscious attention jumps around, trying to include everything. But can you notice that behind that is a quiet field? The place in which everything you see, everything you feel, everything you hear arrives. Where does all the seeing, all the hearing, all the feeling arrive? You could say in the nervous system. What is it that's aware? I'm not asking you to think about it. I'm asking you to notice. Notice awareness itself. So then you've got two things. You've got the monkey mind jumping around. The attention jumping around is a better way to say it. Paying attention to this, paying attention to that. It's actually really helpful to keep attention, paying attention to a lot of things. That's why we might pay attention to 4 feelings in the body, 4 things we hear, 4 things we see. Trying to include as much as possible. But behind attention is the place where everything is experienced. And that's what we're most interested in. Consciousness itself, awareness itself. And if you're really paying attention to awareness itself, to everything that arises in the poles between awareness itself, which is the field, but also all the different things you would pay attention to, then that takes up so much of your consciousness that you're not having thoughts about the past or the future. All there is this vivid, luminous moment. And sometimes because the mind is busy, it can take time to learn how to learn to really fully experience this luminous present moment. The only thing to do with the busy mind, it's not to push it away or to try and stop it. It's to really give it attention, but from a distance, to stare at the busy mind. Or if there's distracted feelings or thoughts, to watch the distracted feelings or thoughts. To really be attentive to the busyness. The fastest way to get to peace is to be very, very attentive to the busyness, not engaged in it, not following those thoughts, but watching those thoughts. Oh, I'm stressed, or I'm thinking about tomorrow, or I'm this, or I'm that. But not just engaging in those feelings. So you stand back and you watch it all arising. Could you watch a thought in the same way you'd watch a bird flying across the sky in front of you? So thoughts rise from somewhere. They hang around for a while. And as long as you don't cling to them, they just wander off like small clouds. It's only when we cling to the thought that they go on for a long time. So even if the thought's really interesting, when we're practicing mindfulness, we just let it go. But a really interesting place to put attention is to try and catch the thought as it comes out of the rabbit hole. Somewhere inside you are these little rabbit holes, and the thoughts sort of come out of them. Can you try and catch where the thought comes out of? How close to that place where they come from can you get? Can you catch the thought right at the beginning? Before it's become big. If you can do that, the closer you can catch the thoughts at their point of arising, the less addictive they'll be. So you watch, you watch. And nothing is wrong. Whatever's going on is just the way awareness arises. It's just human consciousness doing what human consciousness does. So the space of awareness in which thoughts arise, feelings are experienced, sounds are heard. Things are smelt and tasted. the space of awareness. All you can experience in the entire universe comes in the space of awareness. There is nothing else that you can experience. Could call it the field of awareness. The space of all phenomena. Since the only thing that you can experience is in this space, this field, then this is the only place you can experience the source of the universe. The Christian Bible says the kingdom of heaven is within. So as you really explore, as you really pay attention, as you really let yourself experience awareness, you're exploring source. You're exploring Buddha nature. You're exploring the ever-present origin. You're aware thoughts, sounds, feelings, images arise out of who knows where, out of emptiness. Stay a while, disappear, fade away. It's not the coming and going that we're really wanting to pay attention to. It's the space in which there's coming and going in the first place. So be okay if your mind's busy. Watch it. Listen with compassionate curiosity. Let it flow without surfing it. You're standing back, watching it. How creative. All these feelings, all these thoughts, all these sights, all these sounds. So seductive to get involved, to get lost in it. But right now, we're just standing back to notice the ocean itself. to help you stand back and notice the ocean. You can pay attention to your breathing, for example, how it goes down into your belly. You can pay attention to a far extremity of your body, like your toes. You can listen to the most distant sound you can hear. My direct experience of the universe is as far as I can see, as far as I can hear, as far as I can feel, as far as I can smell and taste. So observe this magnificence. This presence was here before you were born and after you die. Because this presence is timeless, has no time. The thought has time. You can think about yesterday. You can think about tomorrow. But all of this arises in this very moment. All that's really, absolutely real is what's arising in this present moment. There isn't anything that exists in your experience that doesn't arise in this present moment. That's all there is. Your thoughts about the past are just thoughts. Your thoughts about the future are just thoughts. The only thing that's here is this moment. This is your fundamental nature. Nothing bad you've ever done tarnishes this. Nothing good you've ever done makes this better. This is here all the time. This, any healing, any blessing that you could possibly want comes from this. This is source. When there's no past and no future, there's nothing to be forgiven for. The more we can lean into this, the more we can discover that everything we need and want is already here. The more we lean into this, the more we discover that. What if this is the original blessing? The blessing before you were born. What if this is how you are sacred? To arrive where you started and know this place for the first time. Even if you get distracted or bored, just watch it. You don't have to push it away. You don't have to bring your attention back. Just observe it. Wow, I'm so busy. Just notice the busyness. Just notice the busyness. Just notice your thoughts. So any questions from that exercise? Or comments? How was it for you? And also from the whole session. How was it for you, darling?
Hello. Yeah.
Georgianne first. Or was it Paul? Was that you
Well,
talking, Paul?
no, I think,
Georgianne first.
yes, hi. Julian, I noticed that, I mean, all the times I've been doing these meditations with you, this is the second time, and you said it was going to be a short meditation. You said you weren't going to go into a full one.
No, the first meditation was a short one. The second one was a long one. But what's the question or the comment?
Well, it wasn't a question, it was an observation that, okay, I was thinking that it was a short one, and I didn't, and that happened once before. We went straight into a meditation, without so much preparation, and I found I went much deeper, much more quickly. It's just an observation that, maybe in the mind, when I'm thinking, when you're going into meditation, I'm thinking of preparing, all that, maybe that's a hindrance for me, I don't know. But I just found.
Yeah, that's really helpful, Georgianne, because there's a problem with meditation, which is if we're trying to get away with away from the conscious mind running the show, consciously intending to meditate can get in the way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
And it's the second time.
Yeah.
That's happened in all the time, because
Great.
usually.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, no, that's beautiful. So one of the things to for everyone to just be aware of is that sometimes there's a spontaneous relaxation that can happen, and there's a way of talking. There's a way of using language that supports that spontaneous, where we're not really officially doing a meditation, but we just relax into awareness without it being too intentional. That is really a wonderful. That's the best. It's the most natural. However, to get there, it's really great to practice intentionally. But there was a great master once, and he was a young man, and he had a big crowd of people, and there was a monk who'd been, who was older than him, who'd perhaps, taught him when he was a novice, and he was a bit jealous of this young guy having all these students. And so he calls from the back of the room. He says, how often do you meditate? And the master says, I never meditate. And the person says, what do you mean you never meditate? You're pretending to be a master. He said, why should I meditate? When am I ever distracted? That takes a lot of practice to get to that place. Thank you. You had a question. Thank you, Georgianne. That was great.
I had feedback to give, and that was that as I could just see the Bodhisattva in her.
Where could you see the Bodhisattva?
She was looking completely to me like a Bodhisattva, full and proper, like a version of the Buddha.
What, the person you were working with in your exercise?
Yes.
Beautiful. Graham, beautiful.
Yes. And now even when Georgianne came, she was also looking like, and you are also looking like.
Yeah, great. That's enough. You said enough, because we don't want to over language these things. We want to just say there's almost given us an invitation that is that, may we let us all pray that we see people the way that even sometimes that Om saw us. That's such a beautiful invitation, not just the thought, I see the Buddha in you, namaste, I see that, but to actually have a moment of the sacred unfolding. So there's a difference between consciously saying, I'm going to look at Gordon and I'm going to see him as sacred. That's very sort of conscious. but sometimes spontaneously, like it did for Om, that the sacred, we catch ourselves in a moment of the sacred unfolding when we suddenly say, wow, that's a Buddha, that's a Bodhisattva. It's, you know, it happens very easily, very often with small babies, doesn't it? You can just see the awareness in the eyes of the small baby. And you can just see the sacred there. It just happens very easily. It's a beautiful thing to sort of invite, to keep inviting, and even to do it consciously a little bit. You know, to look, I look at Bronwyn and I see, wow, isn't that amazing? Yeah, there's aliveness, there's awareness. You know, one of the things I love from particularly Tibetan Buddhism was that, you know, that awareness itself is the Buddha. And therefore, every nerve ending is a point of awareness. And therefore, our body is a Buddha field. It's a field of Buddhas. I mean, isn't that cool? So every nerve ending in your body is a Buddha. How cool is that? I mean, it's a metaphor. You could say, you know, every nerve ending in your body is an angel. You could say, you know, if you wanted to use language from a different tradition. Every nerve ending in the body that you, of a person when you talk to them, is, you know, is an arising of source. You know, there's this whole bundle of source in front of you, a whole complex little tornado of source, that person in front of you. And then you sort of look around and say, well, I can see source here, you know, I can see source here, 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 here. Oh my God. Maybe source is here. You know, you can sort of play those games. Thank you. That was really beautiful. Thank you. Who else has got a comment or a question? Enrico. Did you put your hand up, Jamie? Or were you just scratching your face? Yeah, May. Did you put your hand up? You weren't, okay.
I just feel itchy on my nose.
Yeah, it's always hard to tell. Yeah, be careful when we do these sessions. Don't itch your nose, folks. You know, because I don't think you've got a question. Great.
Sorry.
Enrico.
Yeah, a beautiful experience. It was my third meditation today, and of course the most impactful meditation. I think that it's beautiful to meditate or to have this this guided meditation by you in the group. I feel very very surrounded by brothers and sisters, and the exercise was excellent. It was connecting throughout the senses, more than through the senses, through our sensitive awareness. Yeah, was
Okay.
very touching.
Beautiful. Thank you, Enrico. Who else? What else? Bronwyn. You have to unmute. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it's always tempting to use the image to do it, but it's actually at the bottom left of the screen, isn't it? I really loved that meditation. I intend to meditate on a regular basis, but I actually don't get round to it. And I found that today I dropped very, very quickly into that state of nothingness, really, and found it very easy to stay there and to project and just feel suspended in that state. And quite a magical experience, really, to feel the connection with people all over the country and all over the world. just really a special experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah, that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful what you say, Bronwyn. So isn't it amazing? So the sort of, so everything that arises in awareness. And yet, and you have all arisen in awareness. And we're all over the world. So awareness is all over the world. It's sort of somehow there's something that doesn't quite compute at a logical level, but at some other level, there's this mix. So awareness, the awareness that's in here is not just in my body. I've got ears that hear further. I've got eyes that see further. And somehow connecting with you, it's much bigger than just what's in this body. It's hard. That's why we need poetry, because, you know, how does the poet go? Man's reach goes beyond his grasp. Our reach goes beyond our logical minds. Soulfulness goes. So you described it really beautifully, Bronwyn, and yeah, really beautiful. Paul.
One of the parting observations before we left each other with my partner, Georgianne, was a realization that meditating on one's own, you have actually to battle against your own subjectivity a lot of the time, and almost transcend it. But by focusing on Georgianne, I realized that my own subjectivity became relativized by focusing on her, not as an object, but as also a co-subject.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful thing about relating to another person, even superficially, perhaps at sometimes. But it was the first time I'd realized that dimension of.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. You see, I mean, there's two parts to that. The first is that one of the potential problems with sitting meditation is that that you could just be lost in your thoughts, you know, and also actually Tibetan Buddhists meditate with their eyes open, because, you know, I can use the tree, you know, out of doors. I've been meditating out of doors quite a lot. You know, I can put my attention out there. It's not just all in here. It just makes it easier. And, you know, I can put my ears out. So having my eyes out and my ears out stops me from just being obsessed with whatever's going on just here. There are, you know, so there are many ways of broadening beyond internal dialogue. The first is to, you know, observe the internal dialogue. The second is to pay attention to other parts of the body other than this bit. So we're, you know, we're broadening in the body. And then we can broaden with our ears outside the body. You know, so we can pay attention to lots and lots of other things, helps us to bring us into presence. So that's one part of it. And then I think there's also the, you know, with another human being, we have a field, we have a sense of, we have connection with each other. So there are levels of fields. So the biggest field of all is source. The whole universe is source. There's one source. There's only, you know, out of one source came the universe. So that's the sort of, there's that oneness. But also within that oneness, when I'm connecting with another person, a field starts to get established. A sort of energetic loop begins to happen with that person, which is bigger than the individual self. And then, so that's really helpful. Particularly, it's really helpful in a meditation situation, because if you're both meditating, you know, I sit next to my partner. We don't actually do very often sitting looking in each other's eyes, although we do that. But very often we just sit next to each other to meditate. Just being next to somebody increases the field, broadens the field. And that's why it's so great doing these online things. I ran a course a couple of years ago called Deepening Your Experience of the Sacred, which was the first online course I did. It was so powerful. And in fact, it was meant to be I think it was every Wednesday. And we ended up having meditation sessions every morning online. And most people came most of the time. You know, it's really powerful. So I'll have a think about, maybe we'll do that again or something. Any other questions or comments? Francis, Fran.
Right. Yeah, I was in the breakout room with Marija, who, you know, we've known each other from lockdown really, so it's nice to be with a familiar face and friend, I would say, and just that sort of beautiful love and light of the consciousness, and that sense of peace. And I did actually say, because it's a place where I do go to, and I find a lot of my poems, or like, so I've just written a poem now from today's experience, because when I go into that place, I'm not always conscious of everything that I'm sensing or feeling, but you know, I can feel something beyond me, that then sort of comes back through in a poem. And I've sort of been like that since I was a child. My dad used to say to me, "Oh, you know, penny for them, where are you?" But it was just that I just always had that ability to sort of disconnect in a way to everything that's going on around. Yeah, so thank you. It's been beautiful, really, really beautiful. And I'm not feeling very well today, so it's just been sort of, and I think actually when you're not feeling well, you go a bit into that space as well, because it's like, oh, I don't feel good in my body. So yes, so thank you. I feel like it's been quite healing for me too. Thank you, Marija.
Great. That's so nice. It's so nice to feel their energy.
Yeah.
And by the way, folks, if you haven't noticed Marija's face, she's been, you know, she just really now, of course, I've mentioned it, it changes, but you know, she's been very at peace. So I think these practice in pairs is really, really a great thing. And you can also, one of the other things that, you know, I had with Barbara was that, you know, your heart opens, because I went and did it with Barbara. Marina, I think, was asleep. You know, she'll probably tell me she wasn't. But anyway, so I thought, well, I'll go and work with Barbara. And then you just sort of, you just enjoy the person, your heart opens, and then you feel a little bliss. Yeah. And you've got this very sort of naturally occurring sort of bliss that arises. And I think that's sort of, you know, so sometimes, you know, spirituality can just be too serious, you know, but actually spirit, you know, and sometimes it is sitting in the silence and the stillness and the emptiness, but also the magnificence, you know, the fruit on the trees, the sitting opposite somebody and saying, wow, you know, the sky, you know. And for me, the magnificence, paying attention to the magnificence, is a core part of my practice. It's just so enjoyable. If you can, you know, if you can, the more I can experience everything as magnificent, the better life is. You know, the underground, the tube in London could be quite busy. But I don't have to do it every day, so, you know. But when I do, I just really enjoy being crowded with people. You know, why not? You know, how can we, you know, sitting in traffic could be a place to experience their magnificence. So that's sort of we keep just inviting the sacred, keep inviting ourselves to experience the sacred, keep inviting ourselves to experience the magnificence. You know, it can really change things. And then we're almost out of time. I just want to mention that on Monday, the 3rd of October, which is this Monday, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m, Tools for Personal Transformation Life Talent Level 1 is starting, and that will lead into Life Talent Level 2 next year. And we meet weekly, and we have a weekly online session, and we do peer coaching, which is really deep. And we get a very connected experience with each other. And one of the things I've been writing about in the newsletter, you'll see it on Saturday, is, I've talked a lot about in the different sessions about the inner parts of fulfilling your potential in life. But one of the key outer elements of fulfilling your potential in life is being seen and welcomed and accepted and cared for by other people. People saying yes, people saying yes, people saying yes. And so that's what's so great about the programs. And in some ways, even though there's, face-to-face is so beautiful, so wonderful, because you can touch and you can feel. The thing about online is you can do it over many weeks, so you're connected with a group of people over 9 weeks rather than a weekend workshop, for example. So anyway, any of you are interested, we're starting on Monday. Great to have you here today. And I don't have another Wednesday scheduled at the moment. The next Wednesday that's scheduled is actually a slightly later time. It's 6:30 to 8:30 London time, and it's a session with Judith Lowe, and I'll be attending, called Becoming a Generative Citizen. And you're going to hear a lot more about this from me, because it's like the world. Just say this very quickly, the world is in a difficult place. Our countries are in difficult places. Are we going to be bystanders and sit back and do nothing? Or can we engage, bring our spirituality and our positive and our psychology and our being to have a positive influence? There's research on bystanders that says the more people who are bystanders, the less likely any one of them are to take action. If you see one person someone's abusing them verbally and you're the only person there, you're likely to say something. But if there's lots of people, you're less likely to. And we have to turn that psychology around and say, who is going to make the world a better place? Me. And so that's what the Generative Citizen, it's a little introductory workshop to a 7-week program that she's running. But I'm going to be doing more on that. I'm going to be doing something on the environment very soon, which is like, how can we deal with, also our despair and our hopelessness about what we're doing. And then also say, but let me not be ruled by that. Let me take action on that. We can do something, I can do something. So anyway, but there'll be other Wednesday workshops coming up in the next few weeks. You'll see them in the newsletter. Lovely to see you here today, and lots of love to you. Yeah, great.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Great.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.